you asked me to do a demo on this file. Rick was kind enough to send me an example file. Looks like he's shooting on a Canon, and this Canon, the way that he shot it was with a. Actually, This retains some information from the previous thing, so let me reset this. This is the file that he gave me. We're gonna get back into that. I was kind of messing with this beforehand. I made another recording and it was too long, so I'm gonna sum up on this one a little bit faster. See if I can keep this under 15 minutes. Ha, probably not. Anyway, so let's get into some of the details of Lightroom Classic. But before I get into this, let's talk about the image, how it was shot, period. I would highly suggest that when you guys are shooting headshots, turn on your 3x3s because you can see where you're at with the 3x3s. In the back of the camera, you can get this pretty nailed in the back of the camera, on the back of the camera, and I'll show you how to line that up really quick. But let's talk a little bit about this photo. It blends a little too much into the background. I'm at 400. Let me bring this down to 200. See how his jacket just disappears into the background? It's just, he's not set off. His hair blends into the background. Even though he's got good separation because he shot at f5, good job on that. He really didn't need to be shooting at f5. He could have shot this at 4 or 4.5 at 100. Since he's using flash, it freezes action, and headshot people don't move, so you can actually shoot them all the way down to a 60th of a second. Could have done this at 100 ISO instead of 400. So those are just some technicals as a headshot photographer, what I'm looking at. I'm also looking at the eyes. So I see he's using two boxes. These could be rectangles, but it's really kind of hard to tell with the parabolic of an eye. But they look like square boxes, maybe rectangles. But he's got them side by side right next to him, and you can kind of see the photographer right there. I mean, I don't know, maybe can we see him if we really zoom in? Not really. But it's still like ideal setup for corporate headshots is to get separation of the person in the background and separation of the hair. So you'd want a hair light. You'd want to stick a hair light up above, shining 60 degrees down from the back of the person, maybe a foot or two back, or you can do two side ones in the back, 60 degrees, aiming at the opposite back sides of the person's head. So this one would be aimed over here at this ear, and this one over here would be aimed at this one on the back of the head. And you would be very careful to use grids so that you're not actually highlighting the ear and the side of the cheek, which means you're very specific as to where you're putting the person. And that's more of an advanced thing if you've got time to work with each client. If you're doing a run through of a bunch of people, the safer bet is just to do a headliner above that aims down at 60 degrees, so it doesn't create any artifacts in your lens, but it does an overall separation of the top of the head and ear to ear, and it looks really, really, really good. And it also separates the shoulders from the background. Now, another thing that I'm noticing about the way that this guy's sitted is his right shoulder here looks higher than his left. So he wasn't fully comfortable or ready to be shot, and it's hard to tell you exactly where this is, but if you go to somebody's back and you put your hand right about here on their back, and they'll automatically sit up straighter. So if you just say, hey, do you mind if I come around back and touch you on your back? I'm going to show you how the posture needs to be just by a location of touching you on your back. Are you okay with that? And they would always say yes. So you touch them right about here on their back. Just put a little firm pressure and you'll see them automatically pop up. Now what they'll do is they'll pop their head above their shoulders so he doesn't look like he's squatting down. And it just straightens him out. And then you can do the whole turtle thing where, he's bringing his chin out and down a little bit, and it'll give him a more masculine jawline. And that's how you get paid really, really well with headshots. So let's get back into how we'd crop this. Actually, let me show you something really quick. So in these, he's got these wrinkles, and the whole point of this video is to show you how to remove these wrinkles. This guy's in his mid 30s, late 30s, probably early 40s, but I'm seeing gray right here in his hair on both sides. Um, Nobody smiles at this age without having some sort of crow's feet. I'm going to show you how to reduce that a little bit, but we're not going to be using the eraser tools or the remove tool as I had anticipated, because I'll show you why when we get to that point. Let me show you the example of the light first. So let me go back into my libraries. I'm going to go to a meetup that I just did. And I did headshots out in the field just because I thought, hey, that would be kind of fun to do headshots out in the field. Let's look at this guy right here really quick. So you can see how the whole front of him is very well lit, but he's got this highlight. The guy's got gray hair. He's got wrinkles. This is his character. He's got a great look, but you can see that that light is giving him an even light all the way around the top of his head, a little bit off the tip. Because we're shooting this outside, it should look like he's outside. But because I've got him completely in the shade, and I've got a big 45-degree umbrella over here. Let me zoom in here. You can see the catch light in his eye up here. With him, I probably would have backed it out a little bit more, but I was just doing a bunch of headshots. But you can see right here, I've got an eyeliner. So this eyeliner works to highlight the eye a little bit. And we're never pixel peeping. Clients are never pixel peeping. They're always going to look at the fit. This looks good. Even at 100%, which is where most of them will zoom in. He looks good. So that's just a little feedback for you headshot photographers, for lighting position, for how you can make some extra money on that, for setting up lights. And by the way, if you show up with a whole bunch of lights, they go, wow, we're getting our money's worth. And so last headshot I showed up with, we had 2 backlights, a reflector for filling in the shadows, and a large softbox and the eyeliner. And so that was a bunch of gear plus the background. And so when we set it all up, the first thing the client said was, oh my God, you guys brought a studio. It's like we were just expected to be shot against the wall. Don't shoot people against the wall. One, if they're right up against the wall and you're using a light and you shoot them, you're going to get this huge shadow. So let's bring up this exposure really quick. I'm going to guess, because I can still see some of this in focus, this guy was probably maybe 2 feet off this wall. You could have brought him off the wall a lot more, but then again, you'd need a bigger background or you'd need to crop in tighter. So yeah, just a little bit of feedback on that. So let's get into the cropping. Cropping for professional headshots. We're going to go with the standard 4x5. Mine's locked, so I'm going to stay there at 4.5. And we're going to move this around so that it looks right. So if you're in camera with your 3x3s turned on, you're going to be looking for something about yay. Somewhere where the bottom is hitting the jawline and shoulders. See where the square of the shoulders are with the bottom line. This works a lot better if he was sitting straight up. If he was sitting straight up, this line would be a little bit higher, and we'd have a little bit more headroom, and it would look a little bit better. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to raise this above his eyes because I want a little bit more of that headroom there, and we just want to emphasize him. And chances are we don't know where this is going to go. It could go to LinkedIn, it could go to Facebook, but all of these social media sites now, they're putting these giant circles on. So if you cropped it where you'd want to, maybe the top of his head would be gone and you would see more of them down here. So we're going to assume that this is going to be for LinkedIn, for social media of some sort, and we're going to give him a little bit more headspace in case he ends up in a big circle. So because we've got a little bit of the sclera on both sides, we're going to call that crop good. Now I'm going to show you a couple things that Adobe does. They had this auto here, and you guys were probably using auto just to bounce in and, hey, where can I start? If you bounce in on this one, because of the lighting and how much black we got, it tried to even everything out. Again, you guys have probably heard about the 18% gray. Well, Adobe's kind of trying to do the same thing. This doesn't look so pretty. It looks pretty punchy. It's the best way I can probably put this. So I'm going to back off of this. If you have Adobe, let's bring up the system info. If you have Adobe Classic 14.3.1, this is the latest version, you have this new tool in here called Adaptive Color. Adaptive Color will work very well with this portfolio, or with this portrait. Notice how it brought down the temperature of the skin. It balanced everything out. It kind of gave a little bit more separation with the jacket, but I'm going to push this separation a lot more. But also notice that it didn't make any tonal adjustments. Nothing in the tone curve, nothing in the color mixture, in the hue, sat, luminosity, nothing. Because this is a color profile that Adobe is now doing. So you can see all the different color profiles that Adobe is now adding in here. If you wanted to see what it looked like in landscape, neutral, standard, vivid. Anyway, enough of that. But let's get into a little bit of what Adobe can do for you. On the left side over here are all your presets, right? Now, I have my own custom presets, and I'll use these presets. I've been developing these for the last couple of years for the different types of photography that I do. Some of them will work really well, some of them don't. But I want to be very cautious of you guys purchasing presets. If that photographer is not shooting like you, shooting the same light, the camera, the same camera profile, you're going to get a profile, you're going to get a preset pack, and it's going to do this to your photo, and you're going to go, damn it, I want my $29 back. Well, you're not shooting like the photographer, so his presets don't work. Presets are a beginning place. They're not the one click and done type of thing. It's a starting point. So Adobe's done a really great job with giving us new starting points. I'm going to zoom this into 100% so I can show you what these adaptive portraits do. So it's detecting this guy's face, it's looking at all the color, it's looking at a bunch of contrast and everything, and you notice how it just got softened, right? I'm going to take this off, watch the screen, notice how soft it looks right now. Take it off. We lost light out of the eyes, the skin got rough again. Let's go detect it again, watch it. See how it softened everything up? So I'm going to hit the enhance, and I'm going to show you what this does. What it's doing is it's creating masks for you. And by the way, you see where there's a dot under each one of these? It tells you did something there. So now that we have a dot underneath our masks, it created one for our teeth, our iris and pupil, our eye sclera, and our facial skin. So I'm going to show you what this does. If I click on the teeth right here, you're going to see how they're going to get green when I say show overlay. This is what was selected. Now, how cool is this that the teeth are selected that well? Do you remember using brushes and trying to get in there? Now, it didn't do a perfect job. It kind of overlaid right here. You can come in here if you're really neurotic, go 400%, hit subtract, go grab your brush, scale your brush down, and get that off of his lip. Okay, you have that option. But I'm not really too concerned with it because it blends it really, really well, that I'm not going to be too concerned with it. So let's turn that off. Let's go back out to 100%. I'm going to show you how it picked the eyes and pupils. So we're going to say show the overlay for the eyes and pupils. It just selected the iris and the pupil. Eye sclera, the whites of the eyes. It selected those. Now it's not perfect on this one. If we zoom this one into 400% and look at it, it started picking up a little bit. So this is one of those things where you might want to clean up, but might not. And I'll tell you why not. Because see how bright this is down here? Turn off the overlay. This is a little bit more shadowed compared to that. So the AI picked up that this was brighter and this was darker, and so it did a little bit more of the overlay on here. So when it brightens it up, it will actually make it overall better looking. So if we look at the before and after on this, we zoom in, notice how, and by the way, I have my tools turned on. See how it has this little selection? If you hit the T bar and say, change this to never, then these little things go away. If you ever wondered about that, you have auto, and so it can show you what you've clicked on. If you say always, it gives you a spot for every single one of your masks that you have. I usually have this on never because I'm now selecting up here, and I rarely select by tag anymore. But anyway, that's aside. But notice how more even the skin is. I'm going to even up the skin a little bit more. I'm going to come to the facial skin. I'm going to select the facial skin. I'm going to leave the side by side. Actually, I'm going to turn off the side by side. I'm just going to come into this finished one. I'm going to zoom this into 200%. Notice that there's a lot of redness here. Most people go right here for the tint, or they'll come over here to the curve, and they'll select the red, and they'll drop in your points, and you can pull down the redness. Like, that works really well, but notice how it starts picking up on the blue. We're not doing a creative shot here, so you can not do that. Anyway, let's undo those. I'm not going to do the curve. Some of you guys might be really good at the curves. I'm not. I suck at it. I use saturation. I'm going to grab this saturation, and because we're still under the facial skin, I'm going to grab this saturation. I'm going to pull it down a little bit, and then I'm also going to pull down the highlights just a tad bit. So that's getting rid of some of these hot spots. And because this part is a little bit darker, I'm going to take these shadows, and I'm going to push the shadows up a little bit to even out the light a little bit on his face. And notice what it did to the eyes and the face. Notice how his eyes are now popping. His face looks a little bit more even. It doesn't look all rosé-ish. It's a little bit cleaner, and I like it. Now, some people can come in here and they can say, hey, you know what? We're in Southern California. Let's give this guy, poor little guy, a little bit more of a tan. Hey, that works. That works really, really well. And again, because we're only touching facial skin, we're only touching this area. We're not touching anything else. Okay, so that's masks with Adobe. Let's talk about what we came here to talk about, which is this remove tool. Now, with this remove tool, we are going to talk about why you don't want to use a remove tool with these types of wrinkles. I'm not going to turn on generative and detect objects right now because I want you guys to just see this. I'm going to try to remove just this wrinkle right here. So if I select this wrinkle, it did a pretty good job this time. It's not terrible. We could probably push our luck a little bit. See where it goes. So this is one way of taking care of it. It's behaving this time. When I was messing around with this earlier, it was not behaving. It was looking like it gave him carcinoma or something. And you notice how like the pigment here is a little bit different. It kind of matches the rest of his face, so you probably wouldn't know. But again, I'm not a fan of this because of the simple fact that this guy has gray hair here. He's mid-30s, late 30s, possibly early 40s. So we're going to undo all of the wrinkle removal things up here. We're going to reset all of those. I don't like that method. So what I'm going to end up doing, I'll show you the generative AI and the detect objects. So I turn those on, and when you use generative AI and detect objects, what it's going to do is it's going to take a copy of this file and send it up to the web. And Adobe uses these to train their AI. So it's trying to figure out, hey, I want this wrinkle removed, and I'm going to say remove this wrinkle. So it's sending this file up to Adobe. Their servers are working on it. It's sending it back to me. And it kind of gave us a more realistic wrinkle, but it also accentuated this bag. Now, they do have variations. That variation's a little better. That one, it's a tighter, but overall, I don't like it. So I'm just going to leave it. I'm just going to leave it alone. And instead, I'm going to come over here to, let me get into this really quick. So I showed you the enhanced portrait, right? So now I'm going to come in here I'm going to bring this back out to 100. I'm going to show you what the glamour portrait does. Glamour portrait will do a little bit extra. It makes some other changes. So in the facial skin, one of the things is going to brighten up the skin by dropping the temp down a little bit. So it gives a little blue hue, which helps balance out the skin. And it's also going to drop down the texture and your clarity a little bit to give you a softer skin. So let's look at the side by side. And again, you can kind of tell, too close, back up. You can kind of tell right here how it really diminished these wrinkles. It really cleaned up the skin. It balanced it out a lot more. It looks a lot better. This is subjective, okay? You guys might argue with me, but I bet you this guy had more bluish eyes than he did these grayish things because the color was off. So let's come in here to teeth. I already showed you how it masks the teeth. So let's come in here to the hair. In the hair, this is great because in the hair, we want a little bit of separation. So I'm going to come here to the hair, and I'm going to push the shadows. See how his hair is popping up a little bit? And a little bit more brightness in the hair gives him a little bit more of a youthful look. Don't believe me? How about now? All right, enough of that. Let's go into the lips. I'm going to zoom in here to the lips. And the lips are a little chapped, so one of the things that we can do for a lip thing is we can bring down the whites. I usually go about 10, and then I bring down the saturation a little bit more because it pumped this up because it's a glamour shot for women, and this is a dude. So I'm going to bring this down a little bit to more realistic, but I'm also going to come down to the texture, and I'm going to reduce the texture another 10 or 15, and just smooth out the lips a little bit. So let's look side by side. His lips now look a little bit more healthy. His teeth definitely look a lot better. But overall, we're looking for general appearance. We're not trying to focus on any one thing. So overall balance. So let's let's remove some things here. So let's start up here. This is a mole. This is not acne. You only remove this if the client asks you to. So know your difference between your moles and your acne, because this is part of their character. This too is a mole. Let's not remove this. This is a mole, but it looks like it kind of gets infected every once in a while, so it could be a blemish. We may think about that. This is another skin tag. This definitely looks like a skin tag, but because of where it's at, it looks like acne. These are all whiteheads. They need to be removed. This looks like sunglass marring from his sunglasses. This is a mole, but he picks at it or shaves over it, so we would do him a justice to just remove it. I don't think he'll care so much. And then down here in his beard, he's got something here, and of course, standard stuff. So let's start up here, and we've got a random hair. I'm going to turn off the detect objects in generative AI, and we're just going to get rid of this hair right here. Boom, gone. I'm going to get rid of this little white head right here. I'm going to go about 50% larger than it is. Gone. So again, 50% larger in general of everything that you're shooting to get rid of, and it works pretty well. We're going to get rid of this. We're going to go about 25-50% bigger. Did a good job. We're going to get rid of this acne down here. 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 I'm going to clean up this random hair. And then it looks like he had some sort of cold sore or something. Don't really know. Not going to judge. We're just going to clean that up so it kind of blends a little bit. And with some of these things, if it's really pronounced, you can, this is, does it look better? I don't know. Take your pick. This thing, we're not going to use standard remove. I'll show you why. It looks like a scar. So instead, we're going to come in here to generative AI and detect objects, and then we're going to use it. It's going to look at all the surrounding skin. It's going to send it up to the web, kind of get some reference points, send it back. That looks a lot more natural. Let's go side by side. Up here. And we can actually kind of get rid of this one too, because that looks like a razor burn. He was trying to have the Wolverine look. But this one added wrinkles. Let's look at the variations. That looks more natural. That one looks like it was trying to throw in some extra hair. I'm going to leave it on variation 2 and call it a day. Let's go down to this one in his beard. Again, I'm leaving generative AI and detect objects on. I'm going to go about 50% bigger. I'm going to hit that and should get rid of it and add some hair to fill it in. And it did. It did a good job. Let's look at the variations. That's actually a better job because it matches the patchiness of the rest of his beard. So I'm going to call that one good. Again, he's got this thing that we're talking about. Let's just clean up his face just a tad bit. And then this is part of his mole. This is like a little patch. So these things are age spots. Again, age spots down here. He's got some on his nose as well. So I mean, like, trying to get rid of the wrinkles and leaving the age spots, trying to clean it all up, it's not going to look like him. So we're going to leave him off, or we're just going to leave everything alone. But I'm going to actually show you how to clean these up a little bit. But turning off AI, we're going to clean up some nose hair. And I'm bringing up these details specifically because I want you guys to imagine your high-end clients wanting to look very well rested, looking sharp, look like they just came back from the barber. So you can do things like this where it'll clean up acne, skin, hair. Just, you want your client to look their best. This did a horrible job on that. This did too. There we go. And just, I'm done messing with this, but as you guys can see, like, just giving it a, let's come back to 100%. I mean, let's go in 200% because we're going to pixel peep. But isn't that a nicer look? We cleaned up the spots up here. We cleaned up the acne here. We cleaned up this one acne. This is an age spot. This is an age spot. We cleaned up some of the hair that's down here. I would probably clean up this one right here too, just because that looks like an ingrown hair at some point. But yeah, let's look somewhere else. We cleaned up the nose. The nose and eyes look as one. Remember, we're trying to get an overall balanced. I got a great night's sleep rest. So he's got this hair that wants to do his own thing over here. We'll get rid of that. Sometimes women and guys have hair in between. This is a lot cheaper to go through. Let's talk about this forehead wrinkle. His, what do they call these things? Frown lines. I'll turn on generative AI and then just kind of cruise over that thing. Now, whether or not we want to remove that much, I don't know. Let's see. Let's see what it'll do. Because it's right on the edge of that other one, so it might get confused. Ed actually did a pretty good job cleaning it up. But the question is, did we make him too youthful up on top? This is a subjective question. Me, personally, I could do it with or without. By the way, look what happened. It gave him something over here. I don't know why it gave him a mole, but that's the risk that you run with AI. It might add things in. It might look like he just got hit in the head with a baseball bat. It might give him grandma skin. I just don't. Me personally, I just leave it the heck alone because the guy, we want him to look his age. And right here, zoomed in, which is the most anybody will ever zoomed in, it looks fine. Let's see, what else did I want to show you guys about this? We're fit. I showed you the adaptive AI. Showed you how to use a couple of tools over here. Vibrance. If you ever want a little bit more vibrance in your photo, you can take this and you can pump it up a little bit. It kind of makes it pop a little bit, but sometimes a little too much. So I'll drop the sat by one or two, but pump up gives it a nice overall balanced color look. I mean, we rescued this headshot. Oh, let's talk about the wrinkles. Sorry. Let's get back into the wrinkles. So we're going to get back into the masks. We're going to create a new brush. This brush, we're going to come down here to our texture. We're going to subtract 35, clarity minus 15. I'm just arbitrarily throwing these in. I don't know whether these settings are going to work or not. I'm going to come in at 200%, maybe 300%. I'm going to start over on the left eye here. And I'm going to use this to just kind of go over the texture in this area. And I know it's kind of hard to see, but then I'm going to come over here to this one. We're going to do the same thing. And what it's telling it to do is just like smooth out the skin, give it some texture. I'm coming down purposely to try to blend it a little bit so it doesn't look so different. And even though he's got high cheekbones here, it is going to look a little different. So mask to your own pleasure. In this, you can take the highlights down, pump up the shadows. Sometimes bringing up the shadows a little bit will help fill in some of these creases. Let's take a look at this side by side. So side by side, I would say we removed some age here. We definitely cleaned up this eye quite a bit, and it looks a lot better. Overall, again, we're looking for an overall look. The guy looks like he had a great night's sleep. He just came back from vacation, and that's all you really want to get for a male and even a female. You're not removing moles, you're not removing a lot of things that are there permanently, but you're removing anything that wasn't there 2 weeks ago and anything that might not be there 2 weeks from now. And so that's it, you guys. I hope that you enjoyed that. If you did like that, go ahead and get back to the Facebook comments that were in our thread, or go ahead and leave some comments below on my YouTube channel. And if you've got any other suggestions for any other edits, I'm more than happy to make another video. Talk to you soon later. Bye.